at least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.
Number one is number one.
1,000 miles away from me. Hello and welcome to the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast, where we talk about three things: faith, sports, and leadership. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Lutz, joined as always by my brother and co-host from sunny Sarasota, Florida, Drew Lutz. Drew, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Feel honored to be in the presence of a Tennessee legend today. So very excited about this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of our guest, we've had the privilege of hearing from people all around the country, people who we met 5 minutes before we hopped on the podcast and started recording. But this guest we have the privilege of interviewing is someone that Drew and I have both known for our entire lives. In fact, he actually shares the same exact birthday, just not the same year, so it's not the same exact, but the same day of birth as Drew. He is our cousin and one of our best friends, someone who we dressed up and played in diapers with. We played Remember the Titans with. We dressed up in denim suits and went to the Muletown Parade in Columbia, Tennessee. But he is now he's working to become a legendary high school baseball coach in Tennessee. He had a really great career at Columbia Central High School in Columbia, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. Went on to play at one of the top junior colleges in the country at Columbia State Community College, where he played on some competitive teams. Then went on to down to Georgia, played at Reinhardt, and had some successful seasons there, and is now the head coach of his former high school, probably one of the youngest head coaches in the state, and a really competitive baseball state as well. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest today, Mr. Coach Devin Symlar. Devin, thanks for hopping on, man.
What's going on, guys? I am so glad to be here with you. This is probably one of the coolest things that I think. Like I said, I've been on a couple of podcasts before, but doing it with you guys is something really, really special. I think when I first heard you guys doing this, I was like, that's probably one of the coolest things I've heard. Just two brothers wanting to start something up just to talk about, all the things you guys talk about with the faith and the leadership. It's conversations that people need to have more often. So I think it's one of the coolest things that you guys do. The friendship that you have together. It's using your platform for the right reasons, no doubt. So I am honored to be on this, and I can't wait to get going with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We're honored to have you on. And it started out as an excuse for Drew and I to give bad takes on sports. Although, Drew, your SMU take is turning out to be really good. SMU's
SMU.
But it's turned into an opportunity for us to connect and hear stories. And maybe one of these days, Drew and I will hop on and give some more bad sports takes. But for now, we just are enjoying the conversations that we get to have. And so before we dive into too much of the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast, I did want to give you, Devin, a time to tell us when the Tennessee Volunteers football team is going to win a national championship. What year is there going to be their next national championship year, and why?
I'm coming on to this podcast to say it now. It's 2024. You have found a team that plays great defense, okay, in the SEC. You have to have that, first of all, okay? Has the offense been a little shaky? Yes, all right. But they're doing the small things right. They are getting the turnovers when they need. They don't allow they're really good in the red zone with their defense. Once we get Nico to realize that, hey, you can throw the ball and not hold it for 5 seconds, then I think we might have something going. But college playoff is wide open. I think it's the best thing they've ever done. I think it's so much better than the 4 team. But 100%, this is the year. And they've got the great defense. They've got a good quarterback. Coach knows how to win. I'll come on this podcast and say Tennessee college football playoff this year. No doubt.
Okay, so we'll save that, Drew, for the freezing cold takes in a few weeks. My next question was going to be, what's going to happen first, the Heisman Trophy or national championship? So unless you think Nico's going to win a Heisman Trophy this year, I'm assuming you think national championship comes first.
Definitely national championship, 100%. He's still got a little more to learn, but he's learning how to be a team leader this year, without a doubt.
Okay, so off of that then, off of national championship, do you think the Tennessee Titans are closer to the number 1 overall pick or to making the playoffs this year?
They are definitely closer to the number one pick. And that pains me because I'm definitely more of a diehard Titans fan than Vols fan. The Titans got me wrapped in back in 2017 when Marcus Mariota got us to the playoffs over Jacksonville. But this year is 100% rebuild for the Titans. I was at the game Sunday, and it's just it's not a lot of excitement in the stadium. Um, I had Kara's cousin went to the Lions game last week,
Hmm.
and he said that they kept playing that touchdown song, whatever touchdown song that they play at the Lions game. He said he got to hear it like 7 times. So he hopes he never hears that song again, whatever that song is at the Lions game. But
Yeah.
Titans are just they they got to find something. I'm not a big fan of the coach either, if we're being
Hmm.
honest.
Yeah. Vrabel's a tough
So
one to follow. Vrabel's a tough one to follow.
See, and when we get into like leaders that I fought, like Vrabel was one of the guys. So when he left, I was like, you didn't really know what we were doing with it. So I'm optimistic as a Titans fan, but there's not a lot to look forward to
Have
right
you
now.
tried mayonnaise and coffee yet?
Have not and never will. I've got coffee right here, and there is no mayonnaise in this coffee at all.
All right. So you heard here an optimistic Tennessee Titans fan and um, we'll just say an optimistic Tennessee Vols fan as well. But this is the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. We talk about three things: faith, sports, and leadership. If this is your first time listening, we're so glad you're tuning in. The first part of this, we actually we talk about faith. We read a quick Bible verse and have a quick discussion about that. And so Drew is going to be leading us in today's faith section of the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. Drew, take it away.
Yeah, so our verse today comes from Galatians 6:9, and it says, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." We'll start with you, Ryan. What are some takeaways from this passage that first come to mind for you?
Yeah, for me, one of the big things is just perseverance and pursuing excellence and doing the right thing. It's easy to say, "Hey, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to try to do the right thing," but when push comes to shove, you're really looking out for you and yours and all that stuff. But there's some value in persevering and pursuing and doing the right thing, and I think that I mean you see that all over the sports world, especially of like I hate to the Chicago Bears game the other day where the cornerback's out yelling or the safety is out yelling at the fans and stuff like that, and then ends up tipping the ball to the other team and they get a Hail Mary touchdown. Like, not that necessarily reflects this, but doing the right thing. I don't think that we should ever give up doing that. Persevering and doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's not popular. So.
For sure. For sure. Devin, you got some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, when I was reading this one, I like this one because you can relate it to a lot of things that we talk about in sports and stuff. And um, when it comes to doing good, I think of the stuff that we do off of the field, like with our fundraising and with our, we go and read to smaller kids at elementary schools and do different things of that sort. So when I read that, it's kind of like we talk a lot about like planting the seed, like plant the seed somewhere, like plant your seed. Hopefully it's a positive seed, and just kind of let that sit back and let that grow. And we're able to do that a lot when we go read to the kids. And for those guys, they don't know who the baseball players are, but they know that they're this big figure. And just spreading the positivity, being there in the morning and welcoming them, or walking them to school, or walking them to class, or whatever the case may be. Like, I just think that that's a really important thing that we tend to forget about, of just doing the right thing. One of the things that Coach Pickle would always talk about is, good things happen to people that do things the right way. And that's something that I have reiterated multiple times to our guys of, when push comes to shove, just do the right thing. And I think that's something that's super, super important in today's world, especially when you're out and living in the real life, and just having that foundation of, I know that I'm going to do, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what's right. And I always know that that's kind of where I need to go. So
Yeah, for sure. You
That's
said
good, Drew.
something
I'll just
that's
hop in real quick if that's okay. You said planting seeds, and it triggered in my mind. I spent like a year on a project working on a book, Rooted
Uh-huh.
Influence. You should buy it,
Yeah.
available on Amazon. But basically, the premise of it is like controlling what you can control, and you can control whether you try to do the right thing or not.
Uh-huh.
And so often we can get focused on some of the things that are outside of our control, and we're trying to manipulate circumstances or situations, or trying to get to where we're going to get to, and we're forgetting about the roots of who we are. And so I like that, Dev, planting seeds, planting
And
positive seeds.
sometimes you never know where that seed can go. You know, you just plant it. You plant your good seed somewhere, let it grow, and then you never know what's going to happen after that. So,
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
No, same thing. I thought planting seed. I think I've had this conversation with my college coach, but like with people, like you tell them about Jesus, it may not hit them right in the moment,
uh,
but you never know when that root will grow and when it'll hit them, and they'll look back and be like, wow, because you told me about Jesus or because of how you lived, it made me want to learn and grow in my faith.
definitely.
Um, so yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. So that's the faith section of the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. Now we're going to get the opportunity to hear some of Devin's perspective. He has a unique experience growing up in Tennessee, south of Nashville, was really an all sport stud where he was coming from, but focused in and honed in on baseball, even though he wanted to be the second coming of Russell Wilson at a certain point of his life.
Yep.
But he focused in on baseball and made the right decision, and because he had a very successful career and made an impact that way. So, Devin, starting with high school ball, playing at Columbia Central High School. Tell us what is Tennessee high school baseball like? What were some of your favorite memories at Columbia Central and that type of thing?
Yeah. So baseball anywhere in the South is going to be super competitive. Very similar to how basketball is in the North. So baseball in the South has always been super competitive. In high school baseball, our state tournaments are you're going to get really good quality baseball when you go watch some of those games. So always been extremely competitive. If the further south you go, the better it's going to be. But looking back on when I was playing from 2012 to 16, my best memory without a doubt was junior. I think it was my junior year. We had actually, so in baseball, you go regular season, you go your district tournament, then you go regional tournament, sub-state or sectional, and then the state tournament. And so Columbia, from when I was in eighth grade to my junior year, we had got to the exact same game and lost to the exact same team 3 years in a row. So they did it in eighth grade. My freshman year, we lost to the same team. My sophomore year, we lost to the same team. Junior year, we come in. And the year before, we had lost to this team 14-4 in the same game. So morale was not very high. We knew what we were up against, and they were probably the best. Like one of my best friends was on that team, Haddon Adams. He was supposed to be in my wedding, but he went to the military. But he was on that team, and he said that was the best of all the years that we played. That was the best team they had was in 2014 when I was a junior. And you talk about going into a game thinking it's your last one. My best friend was a senior on the team, so you're kind of already in the back of your head. You're thinking, this might be it. Odds are against us, blah, blah, blah. Well, we come out against their, number one pitcher. He's, 94, 95 miles an hour off the mound. And somehow we just scrapped together. The first inning, he strikes all three of us out. So we're like, all right, here we go. This is probably what we expected. Our leadoff hitter was the Alabama commit. I was hitting in the 2 hole. We had another guy who was pretty good in the 3 hole. Struck us all out. We're like, all right, here we go. Anyways, we strap it in. We play pretty good. Um, have a big grand slam in like the bottom of the sixth to put us up like 8-5. They still load the bases in the bottom of the seventh inning with their best hitter up, and he hits probably one of the hardest line drives I've ever caught in my life. Hit it right to me in the gap in center field. So I catch that last out. We finally win. Like I said, the best win that we've had in my career, no doubt. So that memory in high school, like that stuck with me for this long because it was like the adversity had hit. We thought we were back against the wall. That first inning, strike us out 1, 2, 3. But to just be able to come back and still win that huge game it was the best thing that we had ever done. So we end up winning the next game. and hosted a sub-state game, and then lost in extra innings and did not make it to the state tournament that year, though. So that was the furthest we got was my junior year.
There you go.
So
That's it's fun. You guys did have a loaded team.
we had a good team, yes.
Had a good coach, good team. But then you also, I mean, travel ball. So Drew and I played travel basketball. And with travel basketball, like there's different levels and different ways that you can go about it, and it's changed even since Drew and I have played. But really, most of travel ball, especially being in Indiana, you'd have a team within a couple hours. All the players would be from a couple hours, and you would travel to Chicago, to Indianapolis, and being in the Midwest, we had a lot of big tournaments within our area. For travel baseball, it was a little different. What was your experience like there? What were some of the neat opportunities that you had when it came to summer ball after high school season, that type of thing?
So for travel, my sophomore and junior year, I got to go live in Atlanta for the summer. You guys know that, and that's where I got to play with some of the best talent that I've ever been around in my life. If you go, there's certain guys that I can throw out. If you look up the name Alex Spiess, he was a number one draft pick in 2016. If you look up the name Alek Manoah, he was a Cy Young. He was in the running for the Cy Young in 2020 or 21, something like that. But those are guys that I played with on my travel team down in Atlanta. So when you talk about from just a pure talent standpoint, like that was probably the most fun time in my life, just to be able to, like, I was a contributor, no doubt, but I wasn't the main player on a team. So I got to learn how to kind of be a role player. I still played center field and hit in the 9 hole, but I was more of a role player on that team. And I think it was really good for me to be in that role because I'd always been kind of one of the better players on the team. But when I was on that team, I had to learn how to be a role player. And so now, from a coaching standpoint, I can go back to these guys and say, "Hey, I've been the 3 hole hitter, hitting center or playing center field every single day, but I've also been hitting in the 8 9 hole, in and out of the lineup, learning how to play my role, different things like that." So that experience in travel ball, I think, helped me a ton. Coach some of these guys that are not going to be playing every day and have to learn how to play their role. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It was hearing some of the stories that you had from that experience with that team in Atlanta was really cool. Now, talk us through the recruiting process because again, Drew and I basketball experience recruiting is pretty straightforward. There's a
Mhm.
lot of scholarship money available from the Division 1 to D2 to NAIA level to JUCO level, but baseball's a little differently. So talk us through that experience of getting recruited and then ending up where you ended up at Columbia State.
So yeah, recruitment is very different in baseball. Well, up until this year, they changed it this year, so it's getting ready to change a lot. But before this year, baseball was only allotted 11.7 scholarships. So the way everything broke down, and I kind of got to see this a little bit more when I was on the other side. Your pitchers are going to get a lot more money when it comes to baseball. They're a little more important. Um, it's just the way everything works now. Pitchers are going to get a little bit more money, so position players, you got to be really smart about where you're going to go. Is it a good fit? What's life after baseball going to look like? A lot of different things go into it, but at the end of the day, in southern part of the country, JUCO junior college baseball is extremely competitive. So I knew that going in. I knew that Columbia State had just come off of a World Series appearance in 2014. I was graduating in 2016, so they had had some recent success. I was getting some looks from Walter State, which is another junior college in Tennessee. They are historically top 5 in the country, almost every year. So I knew that was a good option. I knew that the junior college route was going to be a little bit better for me, just the type of player I was and stuff like that. And then when I got a chance to meet Coach Korn, first time meeting that guy, was he is intense and he is intentional, and just the way he carries himself, you're like, all right, I better be locked in if I'm going to go play for this guy. So once I met Coach Korn, it wasn't a whole lot of picking and choosing from there. It was one phone call, and then I had my signing day after that. So I loved everything about Coach Korn. I'll probably hit on him a little bit more once we get into the coaching part. But loved everything about Columbia State, loved the JUCO route. And then um, Reinhardt was a different situation because they had just fired their coach as I was getting, I guess, re-recruited after junior college. So the coach that had come into Reinhardt was at a different school before. He was at um, Lindsey Wilson College, which is a small college in Kentucky, but he had some Nashville ties. So he knew some of the same people in Nashville. He coached at Trevecca before that. So he had some Nashville ties. He ends up at Reinhardt. Um, is recruiting another guy who ended up being my roommate. My roommate said, "Hey, if you're looking for an outfielder, I've got one that is still needing a place." So he called me up. When Reinhardt called me, I didn't really have too much interest when I was going down there, but it just so happened the weekend that they wanted me to come visit, uh, Bryce had to play a tournament down in Georgia. So I was like, all right, I'll go down, kind of check him out, got to see him a little bit. And then on my way back up, I got to stop in at Reinhardt. And when I stopped for the visit, it was one of those things again. Everything felt good. Coach communicating, we hit things off. He knew certain people that I knew and built that relationship. And then it was pretty simple after that. So it was timing and all that good stuff kind of led to both decisions from Columbia State and Reinhardt.
Yeah, and Reinhardt is an NAIA school down in Georgia. Beautiful campus, like incredible campus. Baseball program's good, but yeah, you were entering into a kind of a rebuild opportunity
It
with a new
was.
coach and stuff. And so, yeah, we were excited when you said like because when you committed to Columbia State, we kind of knew like okay, he's
Mhm.
committing to like a big time. I mean, you were playing with guys that had transferred in from top level SEC, ACC programs that were going on to play professionally or play all over the country. And so we knew like you were signing up for that. When you went to Reinhardt, like you could just hear in your voice when you call. I think you called my mom maybe to let her know you're committing, and like she just said like he just fell in love with the place, fell in love with the coach, fell in love with the opportunity, and so that's really
Yeah,
cool.
and it was a rebuild too. So that was a fun process of learning. I was one of Coach Burton's guys that he first brought in. I was one of his first five recruits, and so it's really cool now to see. Like we had a good season. We were over 500 my first year. We got better each year that we played. My last year there, I think we finished a good record, 30 wins to 15 losses, something like that. But 2 years after I left they go to the NAIA World Series. So you talk about planting a seed and letting it grow. That's exactly what Coach Burton was able to do with the five guys. And he's called us back and said, hey, this championship is, it has as much to do with us as it does you guys because you were the first guys that came in here and set the culture and did what we wanted to do. And 2 years later, now those guys get to go compete for a championship, which they finished second. So they almost won it. They were second or third. I can't remember if they got to the championship game, but they were a top three team in the country last year. So it was good to see that seed be planted and kind of spread after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And NAIA baseball. If you've listened to our podcast before, we've had some NAIA basketball guys that have come on and either are playing professionally right now or playing or transferred to a Division One school. Like we were big on NAIA basketball, but NAIA baseball as well. Super competitive, high level scholarships. Through baseball, like have been, I guess they're changing now, but they have been weird. Where NAIA was actually at a pretty level playing field when it came to that type of thing, and so the players that you get and produce in an NAIA level are high level as well. And so it's really cool that you got to be a part of that. And then I'm interested to hear this question and this kind of conversation is now you're a coach, and how did that end up happening for Drew and I growing up with you? I mean, you were always a leader, and you were always like we were pretending to be coaches on the football field. Like you and I would be coaching, Coach Boone and Coach Yost, coaching Drew and Bryce, PD, and Sunshine, and that type of thing. And so we would do that type of thing. So coaching was always just something that we had in us. But then you really as a player, you were a captain and a leader. But then you took the step of like, no, I think I'm going to coach. So what was that process like? How did you end up getting to like, hey, I'm going to make a career out of this, and this is what I'm going to pursue is coaching.
Yeah. So yeah, when I look back at it, because I've done this too, I'll look back and like I've always wanted to be the guy that can help others and want to lead other people and stuff like that. So got to kind of put yourself in position to do that first, which big thing I talk about is servant leadership. So it's really hard to be a leader if you're not going to go do all the things that nobody else wants to do first. So you got to make sure that you take care of your stuff first before you go try to lead others. But I kind of talked about Coach Corn being super intentional and things like that when you first meet him, and without a doubt, he is the guy that got me into coaching. Once I just listen to that guy, because you either love Coach Corn or you hate him. There's no in between. And it kind of really, what type of player are you? Like, some guys can play for him, some can't. But just the way he woke up every day with purpose and intent, to lead, I was able to watch that from a distance. And I've told him, we've had this conversation. I've got to talk to Coach Corn after, and just tell him, how much of an impact he had on me from being able to sit back and watch him. After my first year at Columbia State, that's when I knew that I was going to probably go into coaching. Um, it was probably the most adversity that I had been through. From a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, everything, and just listening and trusting him, I was like, all right, I ain't got no option. I'm gonna trust this guy, because he keeps telling me that if I keep pushing, I'm gonna get on the other side of this adversity. And sure enough, springtime comes. It's, best time of my life, and we got over the hump of all the adversity from the fall and all that good stuff. But just watching him go about his day to day life, he's a crazy dude, and there's so many crazy stories that you can think of, but without a doubt, just the core values that he has, and like I said, I'll keep hitting on the intent and the purpose that he had every single day. That's what really got me into it. And then the way things worked out in Reinhardt from a timing standpoint, that's when I knew that kind of coaching was for me. So.
And for you, did you always, like, now you're a high school coach, but you kind of
Mhm.
came to, like, I want to go into coaching when you were in college. It was the goal to do kind of what Drew's doing right now and take the college route, or was your goal always kind of get into the high school room?
So I thought about it, and I made sure to kind of keep both doors open just to see which one I needed to step through. I knew that the college timing wasn't right, just because there wasn't a position open at the time. My roommate was also thinking about grabbing the GA spot, and I knew that I also had something to go back home to at that time. So I was willing to entertain the idea of college coaching, but at the same time, when I was still playing, I would go back to Columbia and use the facilities and stuff. So I would talk to Coach Pickle. And once my mind was already made up that I was going to coach, we had already kind of talked. All right, well, I'm going to retire in such and such year. Here's what we have open. Things. So the conversation had already kind of started. I guess it was when I was a senior in college, of what things would look like if I were to come back and all that good stuff. So as soon as I graduated, I think I was back in Columbia within a week at high school tryouts. So that process went pretty quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, how long were you an assistant at Columbia Central before you took the head job?
I was there for 2 years. I finished playing I finished playing my career in 2021, and I started coaching in the summer of 2021. So I coached 21, 22 as an assistant, and then 23 was my first year as head coach.
Wow. And so, and yeah, you're probably, and I don't know the stats, one of the youngest coaches, at least at the high level of Tennessee, because you guys are a high level competitive team. And so, that's incredible. Uh, with that, Drew, any other questions before we head into the next segment?
I guess there's just been one on my mind. You and Ryan kind of are in a similar situation to where you have probably the best younger brother. So just wanted to hear like how has Bryce impacted you and how has your guys' relationship kind of helped where you are today?
Hey man, you guys know that I think it's really cool. I've yet to find two sets of brothers that are as close as me and Bryce are, and you and Ryan are. So as funny as that is, I will say, that dude has helped me in so many ways. Watching him as a player, and we almost got him on staff this year. There were conversations about it. We couldn't get it quite worked out, but he's where he needs to be. He needs to work for a little bit before he tries to come over and coach a little bit. But he's very supportive. He comes to practice. He talks to some of my guys every now and then, kind of helps them out with certain things. The my senior that just graduated last year is at MTSU now.
Okay.
So Bryce and Connor is his name. Connor, they have a good relationship, and they're able to talk a little bit, and they're sharing coaches now. Well, Bryce's former coach, and Connor's current coach. So he kind of talked to him a little bit about, hey, this is what Coach Nichols likes, and this is what he doesn't like. So he's helped me out in very, very small ways with the team. So that's all
Yeah.
obviously super cool.
for
Yeah,
sure.
Drew, you just had to throw that in there.
I
We're
just
gonna
had to throw
jump
it in.
over that and
Had to
say
throw it in.
something else. But no, you're right though, brothers. We are very close. It's unique, and it's probably like our moms, our sisters, and so they're very close. It's that kind of probably where that comes from. But I don't know about you. Devin was married over a year ago now, right? Over a year
Over a
ago.
year. Yep.
And when I was dating Sarah, one of the first like measuring marks of like, okay, am I going to spend the rest of my life with this woman was whether or not she could get along with Drew. And early on, Drew was not a big fan of her because I was choosing to hang out with her over hang out with him. But then there came a moment where they really clicked and they bonded, and now they're buddies. And so, was there a moment like that for you where Kara and Bryce really hit it off or clicked, or are they still going at each other?
So it was the opposite. So I feel like they've always gotten along with each other. And I hope Hannah listens to this because it was me and Hannah um, that we just didn't get off to the best foot or didn't get off to the best start, I guess. Now we make a joke about it, and now I can't wait to talk at their wedding about it because I'll be able to share some stories. But didn't get off to the best start, and now me and Hannah love each other, and she's listening. She's my best friend, and she knows that. So, Kara and Bryce have always gotten along perfectly fine. I feel like they've always loved each other, and now me and Hannah love each other just as much, if not more.
There you go. Wow, it's not a competition, but you guys
All
win.
right, all
So,
right. Me and Hannah win.
all right. So now we're going to head into a couple more questions, kind of around sports, but three questions that we've been asking each of our guests that I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on. The first one is this: how has baseball, obviously it's your job now, but how has the game itself shaped the man you are today?
Great question. So baseball, and I hit on this a lot when I'm talking to the guys, like baseball gives us so many life lessons. Like with baseball, you can smoke a line drive. You can do everything perfect. Smoke a line drive, be on time, hit the best pitch possible, and it can go right to somebody and it still isn't out in the stat sheet. You can do everything wrong, uh, swing at bad pitches, not work yourself into a good count, not have a good approach at the plate, and get jammed and get a little bloop single over the shortstop's head. So, like baseball, it gives you the perfect, like real world example of adversity is gonna come, and you got to know how to deal with it, and you can always do the right thing and still not be rewarded from it. And how are you going to respond to that is kind of one of my favorite things. Like I've talked about Connor, who's at MTSU right now. He was one of the ones. He did everything right. We would have these conversations one on one about, all right, coach, I'm not hitting the ball very good right now. Well, Connor, are you doing everything right off the field? Are you being a good student? Are you being a good son? Are you being a good boyfriend? Things like that. And he'd be like, Coach, I am. It's just not working out for me. All right, well, just stay the course because I promise you, at some point, you will get past this. So baseball is a perfect example of just the adversity that comes and how do you respond when it's going to hit. So that's something I always love talking about with these guys. It's almost like you get to a point where you're looking for something bad to happen because you know it's an opportunity for growth. You know that there's a chance for you to become better from it, or you know that you can overcome it. And then once you look back and you're like, all right, I overcame that really hard thing, then you're like, okay, I know I'm a much better person from it. So I think baseball just gives so many real life examples of that, or situations that you can put into real life terms. So
Man, you're such a coach. Looking for bad things to happen, for things not to go their
I
way,
know,
so they
right?
can be
I
coachable
know, I
moments.
know, I know. I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it.
All right, next question for you. You're a public school, high school baseball coach. You have the opportunity to impact students on a daily basis. But faith is also something that's important to you that you can't necessarily bring into the locker room or bring onto the field in an explicit way. How have you found ways to blend both your pursuit of excellence and greatness and your love for and passion for baseball and your faith as well? How have you been able to blend that?
So yes, it's very hard because you can get like if I were to sit down and have a team prayer, if I were to lead the team prayer before, somebody could call and get me in trouble for that. So like you have to be very not cautious, but like I guess smart, I guess you can say about how you're going to implement this stuff. And so we're really lucky. We have FCA in our school. So what has ended up happening is one of our FCA leaders who is with the school system. is actually an associate pastor at our church at Central Christian. So me having that relationship with Pastor Greg is able to come and do, little 15-20 minute FCA meetings with our guys. And that way it's still through the school. It's still, so I'm able to kind of take a back seat to that, and we're able to bring somebody else in. So that's kind of the way around things with public school system. That's, unfortunately you do have to do. But Pastor Greg has been able to come in and do wonders for some of our guys. We have a certain example of a kid who was struggling, not a great home life, really struggling from a mental standpoint, high school drama with girlfriend breaking up and things like that. But he turned to Greg, and I can't tell you how happy I was for that. Like, he didn't turn to me, he went straight to Greg. And for him to already know, like, I wasn't expecting that, but just for the impact that Greg had with some of those short 15-20 minute meetings, it stuck with one person. So even if it just sticks with one, that's good enough for me. But it stuck with this kid. He got into the Word. I would see him reading before games. Like, I walked into the locker room one day and he was just in his locker just reading the Bible. So you talk about powerful, with me not even having to do anything right there. Um, so just those small examples of bringing in our FCA guy. I was actually at a something similar to this. Me and a couple other coaches were getting interviewed, and there was another person on the panel that was talking about how to implement Christ into sports and things like that. And she was just talking about bringing in the right people that can just, build the relationship first, get the kids to trust that person, and they don't know anything that he's a Christian or he works in a church or anything like that. They just know him as Mr. Greg, a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
So they trust this guy. He's a good person. They build a relationship, and then he kind of sprinkles in his word or his sermons and things like that. So now the relationship is built, and it's not just, "Hey, I'm bringing in Pastor Greg. You better listen to him." That kind of thing. So I think that's a really good way to just bring in good people around your kids, and there's back to it, plant the seed, and watch it grow. So.
Yeah, that's good. And I'll say to that point, one, as a pastor, I think Billy Graham once said, a coach can impact more people or impacts more people in 1 year than most people do in a lifetime. And so, like, the reality is whether you might not say the word Jesus to the students or preach the gospel to the students, but the way that you lead them, the way that you show them how to be have a healthy marriage, be a good husband, be a good leader, that type of stuff. Like, you are impacting. But then, yeah, you surround yourself with people like Greg. That's awesome. That's incredible in that way. So, last question before we head into the leadership section: what is some advice that you would give to either a young athlete that is looking to play college ball or continue to pursue greatness on the baseball field, or someone who is possibly looking to or exploring going into the coaching world? What is some advice you give that way?
The advice is, I think I would say, there's a couple things I would give, but one thing that I think is really important that not a lot of people talk about, so I'm not trying to be cliche here, but it's really important of who is in your circle and who you surround yourself with. Because whether you could be a very, very strong, independent person, but you can still get, drugged down by somebody that's in your circle that you're just around every single day, and that's kind of sucking life out of you. So it is so important to put yourself around the right people that are going to push you in the way that you want to go. Um, and I just think I think that is more important than being the self-driven person, because you can get off when you're self-driven. It's great to be self-driven, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna be around people, and are you around the right people or the wrong people? I think is super important. So.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, surround yourself with the right people. That's huge. So that's the sports section. Thank you, Devin, for sharing some of your story and some of your heart there. We're going to head into the leadership section where we're going to discuss quickly a quote and then ask you a couple more questions. Drew, would you mind reading through that quote that we have and kind of facilitating this section?
Not at all, and I think it's cool Devin's thoughts already because it kind of hits on this quote from John Maxwell. It says, "People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision." Devin, you kind of touched on it already, but what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that point?
it's kind of getting it back into that of, who are you going to trust if you bring two guys into a room. Are you going to trust the one that you already have a relationship with? You're going to trust the guy. He may be smarter over here, but a lot of times the person is going to go to that person or listen to that person that they trust a little bit more.
Hmm.
So we can. I tell kids all the time, like I can be the best hitting coach in the world, but if you don't trust what I'm telling you, it's not going to click with you.
Yeah.
And that's with any situation. I think it's important that you have to trust the person or build that relationship first before you try to get any work done.
Hmm. Ryan, you got anything on that?
No, you hit the nail on the head that with that answer. That great job. I think it's you following up with a legendary coach at Columbia Central. The players like Connor, who's at MTSU right now, a senior, getting a new coach, had to buy into you as a leader and trust you before he would ever believe a word that comes out of your mouth. And so,
Yes. Yeah.
when I was in youth ministry, something that we would often say is like, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think that the same
Yep.
could be said for coaches, for leaders. A great vision is huge and important, and you're building that and instilling that at Columbia Central. But if you were just locked up in your office all day, come out, give a pregame speech, go hit the field, that type of stuff, like it wouldn't get very far. And so, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
So Drew, that's my advice to you as far as a young coach, because I think that, and Ryan, you with character coach, I think all of us in the same boat. Like the kids have to trust us. Like we can be very very smart, know all the X's and O's. If they don't trust us, it doesn't really matter. So
Yeah, no, that's something I've seen from my boss, head coach. He's constantly meeting with our guys, and um, he's having conversations that do not include basketball at all,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
so they know that he wants to know their hearts and they can trust him. And so it's been really cool to see and be around for sure.
Absolutely. So,
Devin,
yeah, go ahead, Drew.
yeah, through your journey, I mean, you've been a head coach, assistant coach, you've played, you've been best player, not main guy all the time, but through your journey, how have you found ways to lead regardless of your position?
Lead regardless of position. That definitely would go back to that servant leadership that I think I was talking about.
Hmm.
Um, like I'm in the process of teaching my seniors how to lead now. And the first thing when you're trying to teach them that, it's you're not going to go tell that freshman to go pick up the baseballs. You're going to say, "Hey, bud, me and you, let's go pick up these baseballs." And then over time, that kid's probably going to say, "Okay, he's a senior. I need to go pick those up because he's a senior." And that's kind of how you get that ball rolling. Is let me do it first. Let me show you how it's done. Let me set the example visually. I think it's important that they see it, right? That they see the example of the good leadership and things like that, and then you come back and say, all right, well, let's both of us go do this together. And so servant leadership is a big thing that we talk about with our baseball team. So I think some of those guys are starting to learn what that is too, which is good to see.
Sure, for sure. And then lastly, who are some leaders that have shaped um, your leadership today?
Definitely Coach Corn. Go back to
Mhm.
him. I think all three of my coaches. Like I remember when I was like prepping to do all this, I kept a book, and I kept a book of the good and the bad of all three of my high school coach, my junior college coach, and my 4 year coach. And I played under three great leaders, and I wrote down the good, I wrote down the bad, and then I kind of looked more at the good and said, all right, this is going to be my coaching philosophy. Let me take the good from all three of these guys and put it together, and that'll be what I roll with. So I'd say those three guys: Coach Pickle in high school, Coach Corn at junior college, and then Coach Jonathan Burton at Reinhardt would be the three guys that I've always looked at for leadership.
There we go. That's a good list.
Yep.
What
Yep.
started out as a very, I would say, uninformative. People probably tuned out the beginning of the podcast because it was
It's
talking about
Tennessee.
Tennessee winning a national championship this year. Has turned into a pretty good one. So, folks, if you stuck around through the mud of that, I hope you had some good takeaways as well. Devin, what's the team looking like this year? What excites you as you head into this next season?
We've got a lot of returning starters, so every coach gets excited about that. We lost one main starter, two to three that were kind of in and out of the lineup, but about seven guys that got a whole lot of playing time that'll be coming back. We've got two or three pitchers that are going to go play college baseball. We got two or three hitters that have a chance to go do the same. So we are really excited about the upcoming season, along with our new field that should be done in about 2 weeks. We're getting all turf, so we're excited about that.
Wow, you Tennessee folks in your baseball fields, good for you.
Big time.
If you are in the southern-ish Tennessee area, south of Nashville, and want to catch some high school baseball games this year, go check out Columbia Central High School. Go to some games, cheer on Devin and the Mighty. What's your guys' mascot? The Lions.
The Lions, Columbia Central Lions.
Lions win a lot. You
Yep.
Titans fans learned that a couple weeks ago. So
That's right.
yeah, go check that out. Super excited for you, man. Excited for you this year. Excited for you and Karen, what you guys are doing, and just excited for Columbia Central High School. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, man. This is the coolest podcast right here. Go check out Faith Sports Leadership.
We're
This is
going to
awesome.
promo that. That's just it. That's the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Awesome. On behalf of Devin, Drew, and myself, thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a great week. Go be a light. Thanks, friends.
You know, at least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.